diving right in.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Daddy Knows Best channel.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Here to help you be a successful, happy individual, a man that's...
What is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets. But enough talk. How about...
This is a channel that helps men, understand this world and become successful, even become successful fathers and people out there who are leaders. Nothing's wrong with a man being a leader out here, and you hopefully will want to at least lead your own life. If you don't want to be a leader as a man, at least have the power to, choose your own life. Of course, everybody is welcome here, LGBTQ and women and everybody else. I'm here to help you be happy. That's what my channel is about, and I have to be very honest with you. This is a very difficult video to make because I do love people. I do love you. But I think that, don't get me wrong, conservatives also are very misguided. If I was to make this channel and this video, in the 60s or 70s, a lot more videos would be addressed towards the conservatives who had a lot of power and a lot of influence. Some people who want to change, society, not only do they want to, they are targeting your kids. They are influencing your kids through everything from Animal Crossing, little video games where they take over them and then go talk to your children through the internet. Minecraft, they take over that, and they take over just about everything. And if you don't believe me, they did. They took over those and they established them as safe spaces, and children are targeted through children's video games, Sesame Street, Elmo, Disney, now McDonald's, and now just about everything else. Again, a lot of you parents out there are just happy to sit your kids in front of the Disney Channel, and you think that the world's just fine. Don't be surprised when you wake up and your kid wants to get some transitory or transgender surgery done to them that has lifelong, irreversible consequences, and it's paid by your tax dollars. And there's people who believe that you should be funding their lifestyle, even if you can't afford it, no matter your income and how expensive these people live. And these people, these leftist and city type people who actually don't work, they don't care about the consequences that this will have upon rural, normal, quote unquote, normal, society and peoples. This is not sustainable. This does not work. And again, if you're watching this, and if you're an LGBTQ person, you probably already hate me, or you probably already turned this off. Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that, you are free to have your lifestyle. That's perfectly fine. I do think you need to be more accepted. I do think that there is too much hate or unacceptance towards you. But you have to accept that, I'm not one of them. I'm not one of these Christian conservative type people who say that you shouldn't exist or that we should get rid of you. But you are the same people who also won't acknowledge the Muslims and these other people who also do not accept you and won't accept you and actually commit violence against, people like you. So, I don't know if you would consider me a quote unquote ally, especially in regards to transgender people, but I do support, your freedom to choose as you wish. But again, you do not have the right to teach your lifestyle in public schools. Schools and public schools arguably shouldn't exist, and if they do exist, they're supposed to be there to teach fundamental skills and abilities, which they don't even do. They don't even do them at all, and what they do attempt to do, they completely fail at. They don't teach mathematics. You are the same people who want to teach little children, about being queer or, a lesbian or bi or whatever, but you won't teach basic biology. You refuse to teach biology. People, I mean, I didn't even understand how biology worked getting out of public school. And I was moved across the country. You know, I saw both our leftist, you know, states and conservative states. Still didn't understand the basics of, you know, how human and animals' bodies even worked. You don't teach, you know, you don't teach scientific facts. You don't teach anything that's real. And I was a very, very good student. You're the same kid, I mean, people who do target these kids. You don't care about the consequences. You don't care that the people who go under these transgender surgeries, which you force to be paid by tax dollars, as well with your women's centers and all these health programs, and that you've destroyed our healthcare system as well with universal healthcare and all these things, and you destroy our economies, and we won't get into all that. But you put all those consequences and all that burden on the people who actually, you know, produce and develop and fix and maintain this country with the things that are actually essential. Again, you're the same type of people who complain about the homeless people on the street and then criticize capitalism, but you don't work. You don't produce anything of value. You criticize the quote-unquote, again, the conservative people certainly have their flaws and certainly have many ways that you could criticize them. But the quote-unquote, you know, not even conservative, but the American people, the freedom-minded people, and everybody else you like to throw in and lump in and identify and target and stereotype these people, they are the people who are your plumbers, your mechanics, your electrical workers. They're the people who make sure you have your water, your air conditioning, your food, your water, everything that's normal, everything that's needed. And they're paid little to nothing for it. And you get to strut on, you know, with all these wigs and makeup and expensive lifestyles as you throw money and throw luxury around. What is this? What is this? You know, you already have your music, you already have your movies, but you act as if you're ostracized and you're suppressed. You know, if you want to influence the generations and influence people, you have to raise your own family. Oh, but wait. You biologically can't even have children. And don't get me into the trans, you know, woman, man, woman thing. Don't even get me started into that. That will be a very, another video that's possibly, I don't even want to do it because it's disturbing. It's very disturbing. And again, I am not a Christian conservative. Anybody who, you know, sees, you know, men and women for what they are, you know, you've messed with something that works and that functions. I mean, what are we going to have in the future? What kind of genetic experience? I mean, what kind of animal or strange, you know, humanoid hybrids are you going to? Are we going to go down this path? This very, very dangerous path. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about children who are being targeted. Let's continue with the rest of this video. I had some other thoughts I really needed to get off my chest and talk about, but let's continue on with this video.
You think that we'll corrupt your kids if our agenda goes unchecked? Funny, just this once, you're correct.
I hope you understand that, you know, I'm a very you're not going to like when I say this. I'm a very reasonable person. I can look past the arrogance, the obvious attempt to provoke by this young person. I don't know what they identify as. And again, these people are targeting your children. Imagine if conservatives said that they were targeting trans and gay and lesbian, you know, their kids. And yes, I know all the arguments. You can say, oh, they've been restricted from adopting. Well, many of you have alternative lifestyles. And it's been a proven scientific fact that those types of people indoctrinate their kids to live that kind of lifestyle. I mean, we have proof, all kinds of proof, where kids are openly exposing these LGBTQ type parents, even if they were born, to them, their own mothers, that they're conditioned or told or commanded to agree with the narrative, or even if they don't want to, transition or identify in a different way, that they have to, tolerate and accept and, do a little dance for their parents. I hope that you understand what's going on here, because I'm about to show you all a video here in a second, but these people would make it out that conservative parents are just the abusers. And yes, there's lots of bad parents of all kinds of different affiliations and all kinds of different religions, and there's bad parents and good parents of all different kinds. I have no doubt that there are some, people who are LGBT who are good parents. I have no doubt. But there's something biological here. There is the debate of the benefits of a biological cis, or whatever you want to call it, woman, and a biological cis, or whatever you want to call it, man. But again, we don't do research about how, the differences, real scientific research and real scientific studies about the differences in happiness of, between those two different types of people or families, and the impact on the children. There is a bond that we know that scientifically does happen between the mother and the child. We don't even talk about that anymore. Why don't we even talk about that bond that, between a mother and child at childbirth? We're distancing ourselves from family and bonds and to this collective community or communita type of way that, the quote unquote, children need to be, or at least some people believe that these children need to be raised. Children should not be raised in daycare centers, and that you actively want to take, kids away from parents. Again, who's the perpetrator here? Who's the one who's trying to help kids? Really? And again, these types of people don't care about the consequences that they will create. And again, yes, I do acknowledge, just like with many of the gays, especially in the 1980s or so, there were terrible things that were done. And I'm not trying to, apologize for the terrible, crimes and, even the murders that were done. It was wrong. But you do have to understand where some of that came from. It's not toxic masculinity, exactly. Even, it's that these people fundamentally and culturally feel threatened. This is a hard thing to talk about because, most people don't want to go anywhere near this topic. But here at Daddy Knows Best, I do help y'all get, to the core of some of these issues. You as a man inherently biologically know that if somebody is changing their quote unquote gender, that means that you have somebody who, is outside of your tribe, outside of your people. That person is now possibly an enemy. And especially when these people target your children and to change them, and you also hide and protect, the pervs in your own organizations and people, you protect them. These types of people see that, And if a woman changes or transitions to a man or becomes a lesbian, that's less, that's essentially competition. Is it wrong to go do violence upon somebody because of that? Absolutely. It's wrong to commit violence based on competition, for mates. Like thinking like an animal. Yes. I definitely agree that that's wrong. But I do realize that fundamentally you are weakening a nation to be less equipped to fight enemies and to have conflicts. Again, you are the people who tell us that Russia is such a great threat and that we should go fight Ukraine. And you also tell us that we should, you completely ignore the great threat that is China, economically and in conflict wise, and all these other dangers. What's going on here? Why aren't you happy just to live your lifestyle and be content to live the way you want to live? You fundamentally want to take over, cis or hetero or whatever you want to call it, gender people's families. You want to make them a minority. You want to make them strange, or again, there's definitely some Marxism mixed up in here, and some people who just want revenge. Some of you people are disgusted when a mother walks around with 3 kids from the same man, and if they have more kids than 3, and they're white, you're disgusted, and you're actually, I've seen these kinds of people. If you're watching, you kind of people, you're disgusted and you're even angry at people having happy families. We'll continue on with this video here, but it's, if you think I've been rude, I've touched on some difficult topics, but we're about to go deeper. This video is here from Slate.com. We're going to read some articles, and then we're going to, show a few more videos, but let's continue. It says, the post is a part of Outward, a Slate Home's coverage of the LGBTQ life through thought and culture. They say, from children's books to TV shows and movies, media gearing towards young people, yes, they're targeting young people, children, and young adults, is more LGBT inclusive than ever. Okay, they acknowledge that they've made grounds, they have influence, they have position. They're in public schools, they're on TV, they're in Hollywood, they're everywhere. They say Broadway and TV star Billy Porter recently guested on an episode of Sesame Street. They love to use children's programs to target your children. Hope you're very aware of this. They say donning the fabulous black dress that blasted away boundaries. Oh yes, breaking boundaries is so important. New technologies, new inventions, all those kinds of things, real science, discoveries, those kinds of things don't matter, but breaking cultural norms and ignoring the consequences, that's stunning, brave, and beautiful. They say Netflix just released a new show, Chip and Potato, geared towards the toddlers. It's geared towards toddlers, and they have no shame. They think this is stunning and brave and beautiful. They say that features a 2-dad family in the neighborhood and a gender-neutral bathrooms. I told you that this stuff was going to happen, and it's here. I mean, we've already had these types of children's books, and they've already targeted your kids in public libraries and public schools, but now they have little TV shows that are targeted towards your toddlers. Drag queen story hours are saying in Sashane into, I think that's dancing or some form of that. If you've ever seen that kind of stuff, they've literally twerked and shown certain kind of acts or activities to little children to condition them that that's normal. They say in public schools across the USA, if these trends continue, tomorrow's LGBTQ young person may not have to strain quite so hard to see their potential future selves reflected in pop culture. So what they're saying there is society and culture has not gone far enough. We're not inclusive enough. They don't have enough power yet. And we need to do this so they can realize their potential, that they are systematically being oppressed. They're going to use these same Marxist talking points here, as they are the people who exclude you from getting hired if you're white, if you're straight. If you're a white straight male, you're out. If you're a white straight male and if you're a Christian or you have some kind of beliefs and you put them on social media that are anywhere near, in the middle or, freedom minded, and if you're a conservative straight white, male, you're the devil to these people. Again, these people, they're on this warpath, and nothing is good enough for them. Nothing's good enough for these people. Let's show the next video. But this stuff is hard to read. They even call it a battleground. They say the battleground continues. When I use these types of words, I'm not exaggerating. This is a war to them. This is a civil war. They say the battleground continues in our national schools, with religious schools firing not only teachers, but also straight teachers who support LGBTQ colleagues and students. You see, they've completely taken over public schools, but now they have to take over religious private schools as well. It's not enough to take over public schools, charter schools, and all the other types of schools. They openly, target your religious private schools. And these are the same people who tell you about accept the consequences, accept your consequences, if you disagree with these types of people on Twitter. But if they get pushback, this isn't even pushback. This isn't even, this isn't even private religious schools teaching anti-LGBTQ material. This isn't even about, that, or them disagreeing or writing a news article. They're openly protesting and targeting and trying to get these people get these religious private schools defunded and ostracized and removed. They don't want them to exist. These people are not tolerant of your beliefs. But if you go protest them at a public school, a public place, they think that you have invaded a safe space, that you have invaded a sacred sanctuary, that you have committed a great taboo, that you have disagreed with somebody, or in a public space where debate is to be encouraged and allowed. Hope you understand what kind of world these people live in. They think they are the victims when they openly target and attack religious private schools. And they are on the warpath against Catholics. Now, Catholics are not perfect. They have quite a stained or tattered history, I guess you could say. But these people openly are tearing apart or tearing at the Catholic Church as well. Hope that you understand this. Let's continue. There's a few things I want to talk about from this Concur channel. Again, you're not supposed to kick down or kick up. This person has 31,000 subscribers, so they're far bigger than I am. So I believe I can address them. But let's see what they have to say, because again, a lot of you conservative types, you work full-time jobs. You work hard. You're just trying to get food on the table. Bread and butter for the family. It's hard for you to want to evaluate or understand, you know, what your kids are being told, you know, through TikTok and these types of things. And again, I'm not an ultra conservative. I'm not saying that you should take these types of things away from your children, or that you should not even allow them on the internet. But you need to be actually teaching your kids. A lot of you parents would essentially isolate your kids. And I make this point because this is the type of person who will affect your kids and will twist your kids if you are not actually helping them to see what will make them happy. If you are simply like a lot of these quote unquote conservative or Fox News type people, again, I don't love Fox News. They are the types of people who are more often than not reactionary. The left does something, they propose something, they have a narrative, they have a goal, they're changing society, and what all these people do is just react and tell them that they're bad, and that makes a lot of people feel negative. Even if you have the right message and you're trying to quote unquote protect or help or stop something, that feels quote unquote bad. So again, I'm not encouraging Fox News or conservatives. I'm saying that if you are wanting to teach your kids about real biology, the consequences, and what will actually make them happy in this world, and teach them some actual life lessons, because again, a lot of you parents, putting your kids in public schools is already bad enough, and putting them in front of Disney channels and Hollywood movies and all of this, you know, you're not being a good parent to begin with. And then you're also if you are isolating them, you know, from hearing other viewpoints, but you're also not teaching them, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to seek for something new. They're going to seek for something different. They're going to seek to escape. Why aren't you helping them to see that you, if you are a freedom-minded person, you're there to help them to be happy? But let's continue on with this video.
The Idaho House struck down a bill that would have ended child marriage. They voted against it. Under current Idaho law, 16 and 17-year-olds just need a parental consent to marry. A child under age 16 can marry if a judge consents also, which is fucking absurd. This is literally child grooming.
I'm sick of these shoe man arguments, and that's what I wanted to address this. Again, you sitting back as a parent might think that this person has no influence. This person is doing nothing. I've literally seen and talked to conservative people and parents who think that Marilyn Monroe and Malcolm X and some of these people have no influence or no importance and never changed or never did, like they had no influence on society. Some of the most influential people that have ever existed on this planet. This person, again, is sharing very common viewpoints. They love to straw man. So they say that when you're 16 or 17 years old, that should be illegal for you to get married if the parents consent and the judge has to consent. So why on earth should the law be involved in this at all? If you're 16 and 17, why do you need the government? You're still under the roof most likely of your parents. So you would, and culturally speaking, I think it would be good if you got the parents' consent. But why do you even need the government's consent to begin with? And this person wants to make it illegal for these two people to get married. And then they say this is literally grooming, when this has nothing to do with grooming. If you know what grooming actually means, I don't even want to explain these types of things, because if you're watching this type of video and you are a leftist type person, you don't care about the facts. You don't care about facts and definitions, and you care about your narrative. And I capitulate way too much to try to understand and help these types of people. But grooming is where you're conditioning someone over time, where somebody, you know, of course they love to mix in power dynamics and domination and things like this. The state of Idaho isn't telling 16 and 17-year-olds to get married. They're not teaching 16 and children that they should get married at 16 or 17. And when, in regards to grooming, especially to an older man or something, Idaho isn't telling kids to do this. But again, it's completely acceptable that your toddler is conditioned to be trans or gay. But if you're 16 and 17, no. The government gets to decide when or if you get married, and this person wants to control the government to control your life. You see, again, we have a fundamental problem with government, that government is supposed to protect your rights, not establish social, cultural norms. This is a social issue. Just like divorces. Divorces should not be handled by a government. Not to mention the, you know, parent or whatever family courts that rob men every day of their money and their lives. But this is a complete straw man argument. This is deception. And they're smug. And I don't know where these leftist type people come from, but this person sounds like shoe on head. And I'm not sure if it's intentional. But it's funny because shoe on head, for how crazy some of her ideas are, she openly acknowledged, or at least used to acknowledge, that the pay gap was a lie. And the pay gap is a joke. But I digress once again. Let's continue on with a few of these points. And again, in regards to who's not an adult or not, I think you need to think about that in regards to this person as well.
Recently added Jimmy Kimmel in ABC, claiming that Jimmy Kimmel did a threat of violence against her on one of his segments. Now, Jimmy Kimmel, one of the least funny people on the planet, much less the United States. I don't know how anybody watches this program. Like, the fact that he's got a viewership at all is essentially a participation trophy. But anyway, let's hear what threat of violence there was to Marjorie Taylor Greene from Jimmy Kimmel.
That are in the House, like Marjorie Taylor Greene. This woman, Klan mom, is especially upset with the 3 Republican senators who said they'll vote yes on Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, who's nominated for the Supreme Court. She tweeted, Murkowski, Collins, and Romney are pro-pedophile. They just voted for KBJ.
Like, those are people in her own party as well. Those are Republicans. That's the party she's a part of. Like, it's not just limited, apparently, to lefties, you know?
Wow, where is Will Smith when you really need him, huh?
Lamau. So essentially, the threat of violence was him saying, where's Will Smith when you need him? So if you've been living under a rock, and good for you if you haven't heard of this story before, because it's been plastered all over everybody's eyeballs, during the Oscars, which I didn't even know was happening until I started seeing this clip on Twitter, Will Smith smacked Chris Rock because Chris Rock was making fun of his wife. It is what it is. Who cares? The idea is like, oh, somebody should slap Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I hope that you understand that in our modern culture, that's not an idle threat. It's very sideways, it's very indirect. Honestly, sounds kind of pathetic if you're a straightforward, honest kind of guy or person out there. But these aren't idle threats. When somebody says, why don't we go do a Will Smith on these guys? Essentially, as narratives continue, they're saying that not only should you punch a Nazi, if anybody disagrees with you or offends you with the Will Smith story, yes, people out there actually defend and supported Will Smith for his aggravated assault. But this person doesn't acknowledge that that is a threat, especially in the world of Twitter, where people release people's addresses and homes and actually target and show up to people's houses and do attempt to take people out, like with Kavanaugh recently and these types of people. This stuff is literally happening, and this type of person acts like it's a joke. But they say how rhetoric transforms into violence. How funny that they bring up those topics But again, the complete hypocrisy that they don't acknowledge that their rhetoric transforms into violence.
Violent acts that they do. This is nothing new, and it will continue to happen. And because of this, and because of literally everything else surrounding the culture war narrative the right is pushing, I, on the Trans Day of Visibility, posted this. I'd like to stress the importance of self-defense training. Conservatives are weaponizing the humanity of trans people for votes and attempting to legislate abuse against us. Being capable of defending oneself against potential violence.
Do you see how twisted these people are? How much they are liars? When you talk about the Second Amendment, to, you know, wanting to have your own rights to defend yourself, they get to try to change this narrative. That you openly wanting to defend yourself against violent people and your family and your friends and your community. That they not only, you know, they get to say that you speaking out, weaponizing the humanity, you know, they get to twist these words, and then they twist the narrative as if your words are weapons and your words are violence, and then therefore your words or your disagreements or your opposition can lead to physical violence and altercations. Do you see the steps and the suggestion in the verbiage? Do you see what this person is attempting to say? It's very clear. It's kind of indirect. It's kind of petty. It is dishonest and just it's not genuine. But this is how these types of people, how they operate. And they're not out here talking about the importance of self-defense. They're not learning karate, and conservatives aren't out here training or preparing or attempting or speaking or encouraging violence against LGBTQ and trans and these types of people out here. This is all a lie. And these are the same types of people who will lie about the sixth and Trump. And again, I don't love Trump. I guess I have to say that every time. These are the same people who will talk about how Trump encouraged and supported and motivated people to quote unquote violence when it was clearly a FBI co-op psyop job. It's all on camera. It's all fact. We have it. It's a fact that it was a inside job. But again, the point is true. That again, they're going to take the narrative, being capable of defending oneself against potential violence is paramount, or it's important. But I agree. But whenever you say that narrative, again, they love to do this double speak. They love to play these little games because they don't defend anybody. They don't protect anybody. They don't protect your community against criminals. They don't prevent crimes. They don't support criminals being put in jail or people who commit theft. These are the people who have made California into a hellscape of theft and crime. These are the same people who ignore all of their policies and all of their acts that have made Chicago a war zone. I hope that you understand what these kinds of people do and how they act and how they talk. And these people are out there affecting and influencing your children. Let's continue on with a few of their points.
The ramifications of marrying an adult. Like, if these fucking lunatics think that, a child can't understand basic sociological concepts like the difference between gender and sex and understand their gender identity to contradict their birth sex, they certainly can't understand the ramifications of marrying a fucking adult.
Do you understand what this person is attempting to say? They're trying to move the goalpost of age. Again, these people are literally targeting 6 and 7 and 8-year-old children. They're actively and openly telling you and making entertainment to target your toddlers as young as possible to condition them. and then they move the narrative. This person has the audacity to attempt, I am a little bit annoyed here. I am. This is absurd, and it's unhealthy. And again, different societies have decided what is normal when you can get married. In some places, it's as young as 14. In some places, it's 16 where you can get married. In Idaho, it's one of the places where it's as young as possible, as 16 or 17, with parents and a judge's consent. This person has the audacity to move the goalpost when they target children. See, when you say that children shouldn't be targeted and shouldn't be taught these new pronouns and these constructs and taught that they should question or challenge their own gender, this person has the audacity to talk about when somebody's 16 or 17, then they shouldn't be able to legally marry. If we can't target, young little children, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, show them presentations at public libraries and in public schools of, acts, more than twerking. It's more than twerking. And teach them about how to do these things to themselves and to other kids and even with people, then you shouldn't allow 16 and 17-year-olds to get married. This person is toxic. This person is sick. So when does this person suggest that you could get married or should be married? These are the same people who literally want to force men to get medically castrated if they're 35 or 40 years old. That the government is going to take you and force you to be castrated so you can't have children past 35 or 40. But it's acceptable for a woman to freeze her egg or attempt to have a children is much more likely to have disabilities and be, have all kinds of problems, increases past 30. After 35, your chances of having a healthy child are, quite low. It's a miracle if you have a child past 40. It can happen. And it's possible that a woman can have a healthy child after 40, but it's kind of a miracle. This person has the audacity to make this type of argument because there's no, a child and a teenager, they're not making that differentiation. And what is an adult or not? Again, this whole issue comes together, but really from we're not differentiating when somebody's considered an adult or not. In many places, 18 is what is considered a legal adult. You understand? but should society be determining that? That's a discussion to have. And should government be deciding what is an adult or not? The government most certainly has no power and authority to be involved at all. But this type of person would love to, make this false argument and be able to target your kids. And of course, also not allow your 16 or 17-year-old, children to move out of the house or to get a job if they so desire, or to get married at 16 or 17 if they want to. And again, smart kids who graduate early from high school can get out of high school at 16 and 17. If I wouldn't have moved all across the country, I could have been out of high school at 17 and maybe even 16. I was one of those smart kids. And I most certainly, again, public schools arguably shouldn't even exist up to that age. But again, these are the same people who also, this same kind of person wants public schools to extend past 18. There are literal leftists who actually want your kids to be in public schools up to past 18, 19, and 20, and then they go straight off to college. And then they get out of college at, what, 23 at the earliest, 23, 24, 25, and they've never worked a job. They're conditioned and brainwashed and told all of these multi-gender pronoun type of identities, and they're completely restructured. They've never worked. They don't want to work. They don't want to produce. They don't understand consequences. They've never been conditioned to criticize themselves or have critical thought, to think that they've ever made a mistake, that they can do any wrong, and then they love to play these little manipulative games. This person here would love, to play this little game, and if they are able to make a freedom-minded or a conservative person angry, that's a feather in their cap. That would make them really happy. I mean, these people are crazy. They have the audacity to, this person has the audacity to call you crazy. Why is the government determining when somebody can and cannot get married? Especially when they're biologically an adult. But again, we don't teach biology in public schools. We consider animals adults when they can procreate. 14 or so with most humans. In the past, when you were 14, you were driving a cart, you bought, you sold, you could do almost anything, an adult could do. You could get married if you really wanted to, if you proved yourself competent and wealthy enough. You were hunting, you were fishing, you defended the home, you did everything. But again, these people continue to want to keep your kids in a perpetual state, of weakness, and where they're susceptible or vulnerable to these types of people, to these teachers and these parents. Well, not the parents. Well, again, some of these parents are bad if they're like this person. But these teachers and these governments and these public officials. But this person is completely acceptable, probably has no criticism. I highly doubt that they have any criticism for teachers telling, little kids to identify in all kinds of different ways, and boys wearing little dresses and all these things, and for them to experiment with each other. Again, it's perfectly fine if, 14, 15, 16-year-old kids experiment and do all these crazy things and even have a child out of wedlock. These people really don't care that much. But if you were a 20-year-old man or older, especially if you were 25 or something, and a 16-year-old woman wanted to marry you, these people scream bloody murder. These people scream bloody murder. And in the past, and biologically and culturally, except for after feminism, in the last 40, 50 years, that was pretty much the norm. You were considered an old maid after 18. And there is a reason why women arguably should be married, younger. Again, the social norm of people getting married when they're 28, 29, and 30, that might be decent for the man, especially in these hard economic times. But a woman, she thinks she's compromising or giving up something if she gets married at 25. After 20, again, these types of people are hurting children and hurting people because they're not teaching you the truth. And I'm going to be making a video about, marriage and this type of issue directly, because we're making both men and women and a lot of people out there unhappy. Women are being lied to by feminism, and men are being lied to by everybody else as well. But I've seen enough of this person. I've heard enough. All their arguments are tired and old, and they think they're witty, and they think they're smart, and they're underhanded, and they can slither around with their arguments in whatever way they can. But let's continue. This is from the news or the website called Salon, and they say John Cruden's censorship, why conservatives decry the consequences. Again, they talk about consequences of free speech, as if conservatives or freedom-minded people try to ignore the consequences of their actions. Again, they try to hold you accountable for anything. Again, these types of people, again, they get to accuse you of being an ist and an ism and a phobe. They get to call whatever anything that you believe is a theory. And they get to laugh and mock and these types of things. And again, they don't decry Trudeau, who literally did blackface. And Biden was literally supported segregationist laws and was a racist. But you don't decry and you don't oppose these types of people. And again, they make these types of things out of racism. In a Missouri school district, a black administrator was drummed out of her job by white parents. What kind of lie? I mean, tell us the details. If this is true, tell us what happened and what they said and why they did it. But why should you trust anybody at their word, especially these types of people who play these little games? Let's continue.
Member of that community, which they then have to find and then build for themselves. They don't have the parents who shared that same history, overcame the same challenges, faced the same oppression. They're born an island.
Hope you understand what they're talking about here. Perhaps I'll make a video just about this as well. They're talking about how LGBTQ and these types of people are, yes, they do go through personal and psychological experiences that many of us don't recognize. We all go through different things. And I do feel for them. And it is difficult because parents, even if they have the best of intentions and even when they want to help these children, it's hard for them to rationalize and help and explain things to them. And if it's in a religious household, or maybe, you know, you just are from a household where they're very firm about, you know, marriage, even if they're not religious, and a lot of cultures, you know, marriage is very, very significant and very, very cultural. You know, you've made yourself an outcast in a lot of ways, by being, you know, being LGBTQ and all this. I do think we need to understand and respect them, yes. But I've seen these types of speeches. TED Talks has little to absolutely no credibility. They've had an awful lot of speeches that were jokes, laughable, you know, extremely inaccurate. But they literally had a feminist get on there and complain about not being able to find no good man. But I've seen this argument and I've seen presentations like this. This is one of the things that I saw when I was a teenager and was really influential. You might not think this is influential, but it really was, this argument. Because it speaks to people who feel isolated or outcasted or alone, and people want to, you know, feel a sense of family or community. And they want to be accepted. But you see, they're going to pull on those heartstrings. A lot of kids don't feel like they're accepted or they're understood. Again, parents are always raised and born in a different generation. And a lot of parents and a lot of people who are older, even these LGBTQ and all these people who, as they get older, it's harder for them. It takes more effort and energy to rationalize and sympathize and understand somebody who had different, or is upcoming and is experiencing different things than they did as when they were a child. You have to bridge that gap of experience. There's differences. And I do think that there needs to be more love and sympathy and understanding. But on the other hand, I didn't show that whole video earlier, you know, from Concur, but at one point this person accused all parents, especially if you're conservative, which again, you're conservative if you believe in free speech, the right to bear arms, the Second Amendment, you know, biological men and women. That's enough for you to be quote unquote a conservative to them. That makes you the worst. That makes you evil. That makes you a very bad person to them. They said that person had, you know, had the gall, the audacity to say that you simply just wanted to torture children. Now, I do understand their point there. And again, these people do know how to pull on some heartstrings, because a lot of these parents, especially if you're traditional, you were trained and you were expected to roll with the punches, that life's not easy. And sometimes you think as a part of parenting that you shouldn't be there to always encourage and to always support. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes you have to let people struggle. Sometimes you have to let people figure out things on their own. Sometimes people got to make mistakes. Sometimes people do have to fall off the bike and get some bloody knees. And I know what that's like. A lot of kids, that might be a 90s thing. The upcoming generation and the Gen Z probably don't know what it's like to ride a bike outside and have bloody knees. But the point being here is that when you as a parent, you know, some of you parents aren't involved at all, but when you parents do try to step back and let the kids have a little bit of their own responsibility to make some decisions, maybe have a few consequences, you know, maybe have the opportunity to make some bad choices as they start growing up into their teenage, especially later teenage years. You see, they're already targeting them as young children, but you see what's happening here with the daycares and these types of people. A lot of you parents are sending your kids off to daycare. You send your kids off to public school. Then you send them off to some kind of sports program. And then you're sending them off to high school. Then you're sending them off to college. Did you raise these kids? Do you know anything about these kids? Who was the one influencing these kids? Why are these kids so different? You never talked to these kids. You never understood these kids. You never were there for them. You never taught them any skills or any abilities. They were essentially a stranger in your home. And the people who were talking to them and influencing them, again, I'm not telling you to shut off the internet or shut off the computer or get rid of your TVs or something ridiculous, you know, like some of these parents do. Again, my own father thought it was inspirational that his dad destroyed their TV when it was expensive and rare to have a TV, and destroyed the TV because they were watching Saturday morning cartoons essentially and weren't quote unquote working, you know, on a Saturday morning or whatever, and just destroyed the TV as if that was inspirational. And again, yes, sometimes you have to take measures into your own hands, but destroying the gaming console, destroying the laptops, destroying the iPads, and that kind of attitude, you know, you might say it's wussy or sissy, but a lot of these kids have been raised or conditioned this way. And if you show any of that strong type of, you know, culture or attitude, and there's people out there who literally, you know, describe spanking as torture. Now, if spanking is to be done at all, it's to be, again, to a very young child. Probably 4 or 5 at the oldest. I do agree there with that point. But these are the same people who will take those vulnerabilities. They'll take those weaknesses. They'll take those opportunities to find somebody who feels alone, ostracized, outcasted. You know, maybe they just don't fit in. Maybe they're just a little bit different. You know, maybe they're not good at dating. Maybe they're not the most attractive guy or the most attractive women. Again, maybe the guy has a tendency to have longer hair and he likes smoother clothes, and maybe his body is naturally more skinny. Maybe the woman is naturally a little bit stronger. Maybe she, you know, she was a tomboy, and maybe she, you know, has a deeper voice and all of this. They're gonna target those teens, and even as children. If you're, again, they're gonna tell these teens and these teenagers, looking for anything that's outside of the norm, to tell them that they need to live and be a different lifestyle, and that they need to have a community. Again, people do need to be understood and accepted. But the role of parenting and the role of leadership is not on the community. It's not on some school advisor, you know, from some advisor, some social studies, you know, person who helps kids, who can be like a tutor or an advisor at their public school. That's not supposed to be their proxy parent. It's not the community. It's not the communita. It's not their it's not teachers who are supposed to be the parents. The parents, again, this is another attack on the family. Parents have not, I mean, not only do they have the opportunity, in a way, parents have a right to at least have the opportunity to teach the culture that they believe and the lifestyle that they believe in to their kids. And not only do you parents not take this opportunity upon yourself, not only do you not take that opportunity, and honestly, it's a responsibility in a way, but you allow these influences not only into your household. I mean, a lot of you people are just sit back and you don't care, but even if you're proactive and you're somewhat aware, a lot of you don't recognize what Disney does and Hollywood does. And if your kids are on Twitter, oh my goodness. So again, I think it's good for kids. Again, you have to understand where they are and how to teach them and where their understanding is and be reasonable. But you have to understand that these people have every intention to condition and change and mold your kids to essentially become the parents of your kids. If you are just on autopilot, if you're just a checked out parent, you know, who's just working 9 to 5, and especially if these kids are going to daycare, you're not raising your kids. The government is raising your kids. The public schools are raising your kids. And these people with cultural and social and gender agendas, their mission to change your kids, this is what they're going to do, and this is what they have been doing. A lot of you parents still don't recognize, you know, how all these things have changed. You don't want to recognize that I just showed you that McDonald's is targeting your children. A lot of these organizations, now you can say they're just doing it for the money, that they don't really believe in these things. Well, it doesn't really, I mean, it does matter, but that's not the issue here. If these businesses are just, you know, putting on this face or facade for the money. The issue is that it's an influence and that it has generations of influence. It's very hard to find somebody, if you're a straight white, I mean, it's just a straight man, or in general, if you're a straight man who's looking for a straight traditional woman, it's getting harder, and in the future, it's going to be seen as very taboo. They've already, this little battle has already gone on, and I think it was an inside job as well, with like the super straight type of thing. I think it was a test to test the waters to see if they could create a fight or create a dialogue. I think a lot of you are so beaten that you don't want to even fight about that anymore. But when your son says that he can't even find a biological woman who can find a kid, I mean, have children or have a family anymore, and that he's outcasted as strange as he wants to find a cis, you know, a cis, like a natural, you know, a natural woman. And as your daughters come to you, if you do talk to them and they're told that they're strange, that they don't want to experiment with lesbian or bi type of activities with their friends as they go to, you know, have a sleepover, you know, this is the kind of stuff that's going on. You know, oftentimes the girls are the ones who get much more experimental, and the boys, especially if they're average looking or not particularly wealthy or anything, the young boys are just outcasted. So, you know, I'm going to wrap this up. There is some fun to be had by, again, the quote-unquote memes or memesters. Again, I encourage you to watch my video about the cat or a cat, you know, McDonald's, and, you know, and trans people and all this. I made a couple days ago. You know, it's one thing. I mean, all fun aside, I mean, it's fun to, you know, maybe make your ringtone and have a few good laughs. If you have your ringtone Camel by Camel, because again, they made Animal Crossing a safe space, and you presenting a man with a woman is offensive to these people. You know, as you having that type of passion or that type of expression, you know, between a man and a woman, it's offensive to them, and it's something that out of their control. All fun aside, as with that little joke, I do think it's funny. Please do that for me, boys out there. I think that again, I've talked about it before. A lot of y'all are way too silent out there. You're not teaching your kids, you're not protecting your kids, you're not helping your kids understand these issues. They're becoming targets. They're vulnerable. You're not teaching your kids. And you're letting, oftentimes letting these people decide what is culturally normal or culturally not normal. And a lot of you are just far too silent. And again, the sad thing is, a lot of you people who, you know, you work and you don't understand why somebody would be so politically active, why somebody would work to target children through Sesame Street and Minecraft and children's video games, and even go to the extremes to make, you know, kids little books and take over your libraries and make your public library a quote unquote safe space. I don't think y'all are doing enough to try to help people, because again, these people have already shown that they're not gonna, as usual, they're not going to accept any of the consequences. That these transgender young teenagers and young adults, that they made a terrible decision, that they changed their body and they've done something that they can never take back. A lot of the times they sadly end themselves, and it's hurting this is a sickness in our community. Again, maybe one day we'll be able to get to the point with technology where you can completely change your gender, and maybe we'll have a different discussion. But as far as, you know, today, with our limited technology, and that we cannot completely change somebody's gender and mind and biology, one day to be a man and another day to be a woman or whatever. This is essentially a cultural conflict. And again, I'm not saying that you need to go out there and disagree or oppose. And again, I've said it, maybe people are a little bit too kind and not confrontational enough, but there's two different ways that we can improve. this type of situation. Not only should you be a little bit more open, not aggressive, you're too silent, but again, I'm not arguing that you necessarily need to be more quote-unquote kind. I'm arguing that perhaps you should be a little bit more open with these types of people. When's the last time I've heard a quote-unquote conservative or freedom-minded person talk about the hurt and the damages and the consequences? Again, that might seem weak. That might seem like, you know, you're not talking about something that can actually fix the problem, but you're talking on an emotional level that these people might understand. And I've done this before, and they don't like it because they speak to emotional people who are vulnerable or who do not want to grow up or who, you know, want to avoid consequences. And that's how they trap these people. That's how they get to people and that are often vulnerable. They speak to their emotions. And I'm not saying emotions are bad, and I'm not saying that emotions don't have a place. They do. I mean, they have a place and they are important. But if you're, you know, these people say that you're not accepting of them. Since when are these people accepting of, you know, straight or, you know, biological people? These people attack beauty pageants. They take over everything. You know, they take over everything and they mock you for it. They also take over all these social media and the algorithms, and they mock you, and then they continue to mock you. They attack your private religious schools, and they openly attack, you know, the Catholic religion and all these things. I think we see these people for who they are, but I don't see debates on the other side most of the time. I really don't. I don't see a lot of debates on the other side of, and I'm not even talking about Christian conservatives or anything like that. I'm talking about people like me who openly recognize what biology is. I believe in the science. These people don't. And they openly want to condition and mold your children into something that's not normal or not acceptable. Maybe this is the last example I'll make. It's very uncommon. I don't even know if they make them anymore, those baby dolls for young girls. But young women inherently want to nurture and protect and care for, you know, children. And in the past, you know, an older sister especially, it would be normal for her to want to protect and help and teach her you know, younger brothers or younger sisters. You know, these types of people mock and think it's disgusting that you have little daughters with baby doll toys, you know, so they can raise and protect and help, you know, the upcoming generations. If they think that's disgusting or abhorrent or evil or whatever verbiage that they have, you know, if they think that is inherently wrong, that little girls want to, you know, take care of other, you know, younger children, that these little daughters are nurturing and loving and compassionate, I think that exposes these people for what they are. Again, not all LGBT people are this aggressive, and I've talked to quite some of them and a number of them, and they also feel like these people, many of them, are far too aggressive and they're not compassionate or understanding enough. But these militaristic or egotistical types, they're not going to give up, and they're institutionally, and they have power and funding and tax dollars and many other types of things. I mean, they're able to take over and highly influence Disney and McDonald's and the biggest institutions and the biggest corporations and the most powerful people and organizations in the world. If you don't think that they have the power to influence your local mayor, your city council, your school principals, if you don't think that they're not messaging them or threatening them or blackmailing them or commanding them or offering them money to teach certain programs and beliefs, you're very mistaken. These people are on the warpath. And again, I'm not teaching and I'm not here trying to tell parents to be aggressive in any type of way. I'm telling them to simply be involved with their children's lives and to teach them and encourage them and tell them about the amazing opportunity it is to have a family. As a man, the amazing opportunity it is to protect and love and support, you know, your own culture, your own beliefs, your own children. But again, we have marriage laws that steal everything from men. We have divorce laws that make it extremely dangerous. So men are avoiding marriage. It's extremely dumb or dangerous for a man these days to get married, legally at least, in regards to the government. Young women out there are conditioned to want to have fun, you know, all day under the sun. And that, you know, and to do all kinds of experimental things. They're taught that men are, you know, family and men are openly wanting to be, or looking to be their oppressors. Again, I was a guy at college and I helped women move. I was extremely kind and gentle. I was never forward and never aggressive. I didn't even kiss anybody. And there were still women out there who, because I was in business management, actively wanted to change me and actively made it out as if I was a bad person because I wanted to become somewhat successful in business in some way or another. I was somehow evil because I was essentially a capitalist. Hope that you understand what kind of world we actually live in. And this is why I encourage you to not only openly fight public schools, but to get your kids out of public schools. And maybe that's the best thing I can do on this channel with a video like this, is to tell you to get your kids out of public schools. So my friends, that's my video for today. You young men out there, be aware of the influences around you and how people are going to look to figure out what kind of man you are. They're going to target you. Are you a traditional man? Are you a man who supports, you know, freedom and justice in the Second Amendment? And they're going to look to profile you. Are you going to just hide away? Or are you going to say something? Are you going to, you know, oppose them? You're going to make a YouTube video. You're going to say something. Are you going to do something about this? Because if you don't, well, society's kind of lost. And yeah, I don't want to sacrifice for society, and society has done an awful lot to use and abuse me as well. But I'm at least trying to do something to save and help society and fix some of these problems and issues. So I'll see you in the next video. Please like, comment, subscribe. Have a beautiful day, everybody. Have a beautiful one, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out. Have a good one, and bye.